Hello and welcome to a new series. In this series we'll focus on modeling inside 3D Studio Max, and for this episode, the first one, I'm going to start with something pretty simple, which is a Lego man. This guy here, one second, this guy here. The reason he's simple is because he's consisted of squares and circular cylinders and not very difficult forms. So let's start with this guy. Alright, first thing, I have a blueprint here. I will include this blueprint in the comment section so you can download it and use it with this tutorial. I'm going to insert this blueprint into 3D Studio Max so we can build off it. So first thing I'm going to do is create a plane. Now I'm going to create a plane in the front viewport, and I'm going to go to perspective, center it in the x-axis and center it in the y-axis, but not in the Z because the bottom is at 0 and that's what I need. Now I'm going to decrease the segments to 1 because I don't need the segments, and I'm going to apply the blueprint to this plane. So I'm going to click on the fuse here and add a bitmap of this blueprint. I'm going to drag it to the plane and show shaded material viewport. So now we can see the blueprint in the viewport, but it's stretched out and it's too thin, so I need to make it match this photo. The way I do this is I add a UVW map modifier and I click on bitmap fit. This will fit the aspect ratio, the length and height to the picture, so it will be accurate. So this one is accurate. Now I'm going to click on it, on the UVW map modifier, and move the gizmo so I see only the front of our character. That's fine. I'm going to make the plane smaller, not the length, the width. So, and move it again to the right, like so. Alright, now I'm going to take this plane and I'm going to shift rotate it 90 degrees. Let's make it shaded so we don't see the shaders, we don't need them yet. Now I'm going to move it with a snap toggle clicked, and if you click on the right button on the snap toggle, there is a menu that shows you what do you want to snap to. So vertices is fine, and I'm going to snap it this point to this point. Alright, so now it's 90 degrees and snapped. I'm going to unclick this and I'm going to copy this material here. So this material, let's call it front. This one side. I'm going to change the, no, I'm not going to touch this. I'm going to change the UVW map coordinates. I'm going to move it so I see only the side, like so. That's fine. And now if you go to the front viewport, you can see, I'll click G to disable the grid. You can only see the front, and in the left viewport you can only see the left. So that's great. Okay, let's get started. First thing is the body. So you can see in the picture here that the body is a square with a feather bottom part, and you have chamfer edges here, all the way here and here and here. So I'm going to use the extended primitive chamfer box. I'm going to create the chamfer box here. Take it here and chamfer it like this. It doesn't matter what numbers you give here because we're going to change them. Now in order to see the back, to see the blueprint, I need to make this chamfer box transparent. To do this, I'm going to click the right button, Object Properties, See-Through. And I'm going to click OK. So now the box is a see-through box. And I can play with the sizes. I'm going to align it to the part here, which is fine. And I'm going to go to the left viewport and place it in place here. Make it higher, like so. The fillet, which is this, needs to be something around 0.8. The front viewport, that's fine. Now I need more segments, because if you look at this box, if I Object Properties unclick See-Through, you can see that it's pretty rounded, but you can still see the bumps here. And that's not good because I'm trying to create a high poly model. For games this is fine because game modeling needs low poly models, which mean low poly count, because it needs to run in real time. But for our rendering purposes, the amount of polygons is not very important, not in a form like this, a simple form. So I'm going to increase the fillet segments to 30. No, that's way too much. 10, 15 maybe. 15 is fine, I think. Now it's clear and rounded, which is great. I'm going to go to the front viewport and add an editable poly modifier on top of this. And let's make it transparent again. I'm going to take this button segments and move it here. This one, move here. This one a little bit out. And this one is a little bit, no, it's fine. Alright, now as you can see, this goes a little bit more down in a straight line. So I need to cut this form in the center somewhere here and take it down. So what I'm going to do is click on Slice Plane, and we have a slice plane here which goes in the center. This is our slice plane. We need to slice the other direction, so I'm going to rotate the slice plane 90 degrees. I'm going to go to the front viewport and slice it somewhere at the bottom, something like this. Slice. Now I'm going to select all of the polygons down here and delete them. I'm going to take all the polygons down here and take them down a little bit. Move this here, this one a little bit here so it fits. And I'm going to choose the bottom border, because we just deleted the bottom segments. We have a border, we have an open form. So I can choose the bottom border and shift drag it down to create this line. So now if I disable the see-through, I can see that we have our body form. This is the body of our little guy. Alright, now I have to cap this to close this form here. So I'm going to choose border and cap. So this closes the form down here. Alright, we have our body. Next thing I want to create is this torso. So I'm going to this torso here. So I'm going to create a box for this, because it's a box, just a regular box, like so. And I'm going to go to the left viewport and place it in place. Something like so. As you can see in the picture final image, it's a little bit shorter on the sides, but it's the same height, almost the same height. .12 is maybe 11.9. Yeah. on the sides it's a little shorter, so this is great. Now, as you can see, well, you can't actually see it here, but this form is cut inside to give room for the legs. You can see it here. The legs are rounded, and this form is cut like so, so the legs go inside it. So we're going to deal with this after we create the leg, because then we will know exactly what to cut from this form. Okay, next thing, I'm going to create the legs. The legs, I'm going to start from the side, from the left side, because I want to create this round object and then continue with the legs down. So I'm going to create a cylinder from the center here, something like so. I'm going to go to the front viewport. I don't need the height segments, so one is fine. And I'm going to place it in place from here. Alright, it's a little bit cut inside, so that's fine, just like this. And I'm going to take it all the way here. We're going to deal with this bended line in a later time. Now I'm going to go to the left viewport. As you can see, we have this jaggedness again. That's because we don't have enough side segments. So I'm going to make 50 side segments. Now it's rounded. What this did is add segments. So more segments, less jumps. I'll go back to the left, and what I'm going to do now is convert to editable poly. And I'm going to click on all the polygons down here. It's selected all the polygons down here, this one, this one, this one, and the side polygons, which we don't need right now. I'm going to delete them, and now if I go to the left viewport, it ends where this rounded object ends too. But as you can see, this line here goes rounded until the center and then goes straight. We have a closing line here, so we need to delete a little bit more, something like this. So this line will continue in a straight line. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this line, this line. I'm going to go to the left viewport and shift drag down. So this continues the lines down, which is the continuation of our leg. I'm going to select only this, go to the left viewport and continue on. Shift drag, shift drag, shift drag here. And now I'm going to select these points and take them down here. Go to snap toggle, and on the y-axis I'm going to snap it to this line, so it's in the same level. Now I'm going to select these dots, these vertices, and I'm going to take them on the x-axis so they meet. Now it looks closed, but it's not. We have 2 points here, 2 vertices here, and 2 vertices here that are in the same place in space. So we need to create from these two 1 vertices. Essentially, we need to weld them. So I'm going to select these points and weld. Now you can see this vertex is 1 vertex with a 75 number. I'm going to take these 2 vertices and weld them also. Alright, so now we have our basic form of the leg. I'm going to go to the left viewport and fix some things around. I'm going to move this and this a little bit inside, like so. I'm going to take this a little bit down here, and I'm going to take this here. Alright, we have our leg. In order to close this side and the other one, I'm going to choose border, and this border, and click cap. This closes our borders up. Alright, so now we have the body and 1 leg. What I'm going to do is take this leg in the front viewport, and I'm going to select these vertices here, and I'm going to rotate them, not with the angle snap toggle enabled, because this will move in clicks of 5. I need to make a more precise movement, so I'm going to enable this and move it like so. Move it to the side a little bit so it goes in the right angle. Needs to be close, it doesn't need to be 100%, but very close. Alright, so this is fine. This is fine. And I'm going to take this point, which is not in the same height as this one because we just moved the angle. So I'm going to choose the snap toggle, and on the y-axis I'm going to align it to this one. Same thing up here. The last point, align it to this one on 1x. Alright, now we have the leg finished. In the front viewport, as you can see, this part of the leg goes a little bit inside. As you can see in the final form, you have a little bit movement to the side. So I'm going to simulate this. I'm going to vertices. I'm going to slice plane, rotate the slicing plane with the angle snap tool enabled so it clicks 90 degrees exactly. I'm going to move it to where it goes inside, something like here. I disable the snap toggle, and I'm going to click slice. Now we have a slice in this line. So now this is very simple. Just going to select this form here, this polygon, and I'm going to extrude it, the front viewport, so it matches the extrusion of our form. So something like 0.32. Fine. Alright. Now as you can see, this is fine. I'm going to go to the front viewport and shift drag this form to the other leg. Now it needs to mirror because it needs to go to the other side. This side needs to be on this side. So I'm going to use mirror modifier on it. Where are you? Here you are. Mirror on the z-axis. So now as you can see, our form is mirrored, and this is great. We need to, it's not exactly aligned, but that's fine. It needs to be aligned here and here. Maybe we'll take this a little bit inside like this. Alright, so now we have our body, our legs, and let's create this crotch here. So this crotch, if you see on the picture here, it's a rounded shape, just like the legs. So I'm going to create it as such. It's a rounded shape and goes in the center. Let's go to the left and create a cylinder same size as the leg, about the same size. Making a little bit various and not making it exactly the same size as the legs is not a bad thing, because in real life machines never create this models exactly perfect. So there are a little variations, and if you create variation or imperfections in your rendering, the result will be much better, much more realistic, not better. Alright, so that's close enough. I'm going to take this in the front viewport, something like here. And something like here, and make it higher, something like here. It doesn't need to touch, it needs to just about touch. So like here, and that's fine. Alright, so now we have our form here that holds the legs together. As you can see here, this is the form. I'm going to create these points later on. I don't know what this lighting inside the foot is, but we're not going to create it because a normal Lego man doesn't have this. Next thing I'm going to create is the head. Alright, the next thing is the head. So for the head, I'm going to create a chamfer cylinder. So in the top viewport, I'm going to create a cylinder, like so. And as as you can see, it's chamfered out, so we have a chamfer at the edges like here. So I'm going to take this up. Again, the dimensions here doesn't matter because they don't matter because we're going to change them anyway. So now I'm going to change and place it in place. I'm going to make it higher, of course, and I'm going to make it see-through so I can see what I'm doing. Now, cap segments are the segments on the top of the form here. So it's not really important. It will be important when we create this form here and the neck, but for now it's not important. What is important is the fillet segments. The segments here on the side. So now I see I need to make it bigger. The fillet needs to be bigger. I need much more segments here, so I need to, the side segments make something like 80. So it's high poly, maybe even 100. The fillet segments I'm going to make 15, like this form here, maybe even more, 25, 35. And next thing I'm going to do is, we have the fillet segments, side segments. Height segments are not really important here because we have a straight line here, so we don't need the height segments. And the last thing, I'm going to disable the see-through, and I'm going to convert this, no, I'm going to add the editable poly modifier to it. Now I want to select this top part here, the polygons in the top. Choose select object and choose the polygons here in the top. Deselect the polygons that were selected at the bottom because it's selected from the top viewport, so these ones were selected too, so Alt deselect. And the front viewport I'm going to extrude upwards to create this form here. It is too small, so what I need to do now is grow the selection so it selects these height segments also, and I'm going to make it bigger only on the Y-X axis, like so. Front viewport, a little bit more, front, a little bit more. Alright, that's fine. Next thing I'm going to do is take them up a little bit. And let's make it see-through again. Now I'm going to chamfer these side edges, loop to select all the segments here, all the edges, and to chamfer them so they will be rounded like here. Chamfer, too big, 0.1, let's go to the front viewport, 0.4, chamfer 0.4, and let's give it 5 segments. 7 segments is fine, and I think the roundness is too round. 0.25 is good. Okay, now I'm going to object properties, unclick the see-through, and as you can see we have the form of the head. Now the head has a hole here because it's Legos, so it needs to, you can place a wig on top of it or something like that, so we have a hole here. I don't see it because in the blueprints because I don't have the top viewport, so I'm going to use this section here. I see that the hole starts here, so I'm going to choose this vertex and I'm going to extrude it. Now I'm going to chamfer it so that we get this rounded form here. I'm going to chamfer it something like this, and I'm going to choose this polygon and I'm going to extrude it inwards, minus 0.5. Doesn't matter how much I click here because I can just move it very easily. So I'm going to assume that it goes until here, so I'm going to move it down until the head, just about. And I'm going to go to the left viewport and see where it starts. I think the thickness is fine. I'm not going to measure it with a measuring tape, so it needs to look good because we're sculpting here. Alright, this is great. We have lines, jagged lines here. To smooth it out, what I'm going to do is add not a turbo smooth but a smooth modifier to it and click auto smooth. This does is auto smooths these jagged areas that were here before. So now we have the head without the neck. In order to create the neck, this is very simple. I'm going to go back to edit poly. I'm going to select this vertex here, and I'm going to control click on polygon. What this does is selects all the polygons that touch the vertex that was selected before. So if I select this vertex and I hold control and click on polygon, this selects all the polygons that touch this vertex. And now I'm going to delete them. I'm going to choose the border, which was created now, and shift drag down to create the neck. So in the front viewport, I'm going to drag the neck until the body, something like so. This is very, very thin. What we need to do is, again, hold control and click on polygon. This will select all the polygons that touch the border that was just selected. And now I'm going to make it bigger on the top viewport in the y-axis only. So I'm going to make it bigger. Check in the front viewport, a little bit bigger. Something like this. Oops. Front viewport, just a little bit bigger. This is fine. Maybe a little bit. Fine. So now we have the head, the body, and the neck. Let's just select all this form, deselect the blueprint, and let's give it a material so it looks the same color, everything the same color, maybe a little bit gray whitish, something like that. Temp color, temp material, so we just can see it in one material here. And let's give the lines of this form black color. So now if I look at the form, I can see that this little guy is almost done. We have the hands and little things like cutting here so that the legs can bend. So let's do this first. I need to cut in the left viewport, in this form of a box, this line here, so that the legs could go inside, because now they are intersect each other. What I'm going to do is create a line here, arc from, it needs to be a little bit bigger than the legs themselves, because they don't need to touch, because if they touch there is friction and the legs can't open properly. So if you see a real doll, you can see that you can't see because his hand is in the way, but the cut in this form is a little bit bigger than the leg itself, in order for it to have room for maneuver. So I'm going to create an arc from this point to this point and take it up like so. This will be our cutting circle. Now I'm going to add lines. With a snap toggle, I'm going to snap it to this point, and it's not really important, but I'm going to click shift so the line will go in a straight line. Here, you will see in a minute why I'm doing this. And if I hold shift and move it to this point, when the snap toggle is enabled, you can take this line to be exactly in the same place as this one. So I'm going to take it here, and last thing, I'm going to click it here. Why am I doing this? Because I want to give a boolean to this form. I need to cut this form from this one in order to give place for the legs. So I'm going to create a form to cut. So I'm going to take this line, go to modifier, attach this arc, and now I'm going to weld the vertices here. We have two vertices here, one the end of this form and one the end of this form. We attach them together, but we didn't attach the points themselves. And this will be a problem later on. So what I need to do is choose the two vertices and click weld. Now they are one point. And the same thing here, weld, 1 point also. Alright, now I'm going to add a shell modifier to it. What the shell does is gives thickness. And we need to cut. I'm going to unsnap toggle. We need to cut from this form, so we need thickness to cut with. We need this form to be higher than the torso itself. So I'm going to place it here and make it a little bit bigger than the torso itself, because all the torso needs to be cut. Now I'm going to choose this form we created to cut from this form, and I'm going to choose it too, and I'm going to isolate them. And the next thing is simple. I'm going to choose our box torso, and I'm going to add a compound object pro boolean to it. And now I start picking and pick what I want to cut from this form. Once I click this, I have one form with a cut in this form. Now if I unhide everything, you can see that the legs, there is a cut and a place for the legs in this form. Great, we have our torso. Let's name everything. This is the left leg. No, if you stand to this side, so this is the right leg. This is the left leg. This is the crotch. I don't really know how to write this, but crotch. Let's say it's like this. The torso, this is the body. And we have our head.